Just like you don't rise and say, Mr. President, you simply in your seat. Raise your hand unless you tilt your table to the seat. Members can limit debate, and the bigger the group, the rules are the bigger the group, the tighter you get with this. And you have to. If I go to conventions, there's 800 delegates. You've got to make darn sure they must rise and go to the microphone and be recognized. Yada, yada, yada. Members can limit debate. You can, on any motion, you can make the motion to limit debate. It's on the back page and it takes a 2/3 vote. At any meeting, you can say, I move to limit debate for this entire meeting to 2 minutes a member, whatever you want to do. Or you can put it in your procedural rules that you're working on. That debate on any particular motion will be limited to 2 minutes per member and 20 minutes per motion. The big organizations do that. And the point is, you have freedom of speech, but it's not absolute, unlike the Senate, where they just talk forever. If you discuss your point for, Robert says 2 times 10 minutes. If you do it for 5 minutes, 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 and then you do another round. If you haven't convinced me to vote the other way by now, you're not going to. I mean, sitting here endlessly going over this thing is not going to change my mind. It's like I'm a Methodist and you're a Lutheran. And talking for 10 minutes isn't going to change either one of us. So we're going to vote. I'm going to vote Methodist and you're going to vote Lutheran, and that's that. You're out of order. Now, there are, in the middle of the book, I forgot to mention that, page 5, there are listed 26 myths, the parliamentary myths. It's a good thing to read them over when you get a chance. It works like this. The numbered statements are true. Say that again. The numbered statements are false. They're incorrect. They're myths. They're misunderstandings. Below each numbered statement is a bullet. And the bullet says something, and then it gives you the page and line number in Roberts where you can find it. All right? In this business, there is nothing wrong with asking for a citation. Where does it say that? And the first one is an important one that I show all the clients. So the parliamentarian doesn't rule. I go to meetings at the convention and they say, well, what's the parliamentarian rule? And I go, whoa, Mr. President, that's not correct. You could do away with seconds at these meetings. If you write it in your procedural rules, it says, for procedural motions, routine stuff, you don't really need a second.
Well, that's a subjective thing too. If the chair feels that it's slow in being seconded.
The reason for the second, it's just a guide to the presiding officer. So that someone doesn't come in here on the council and say, Mr. President, I move that Cecil County build a space station. And everybody looks at the council member and goes, where's he coming from? Cecil County can't build a space station. Because the budget is so blankety blank big, it takes the United States country bankrupt. So how is Cecil County going to go? Where's this guy getting off at? So the chair waits, and there's no second. The chair says, is there a second? And if everybody's smart, they shut up. And he says, there being no second, the motion will not be considered. Boom, done. The reason for the second is so you don't get some harebrained idea out of the delegates of 800, and you can get them. Right? So, for this group, you can dispense with seconds. Someone says, I move to amend the minutes. You say, okay, what's your amendment? By adding this sentence. Is there any objection? There being no objection, the sentence is added. Cleans it up. You can't table it for any reason. Member has to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Number 5, no, he doesn't. We learned that. If there's no quorum, you can't hold a meeting. We learned that's not true. Hooker versus Biddies. Number 11, a majority is 50% plus 1. Don't use that. That's not correct. Number 12, an elected officer does not take office until after swearing-in ceremonies. You have to be careful of that too. If your charter says you got to be sworn in, then you got to be sworn in. You know, the U.S. Constitution says the president has to take an oath. It's right there on Article 2, executive. It says he will take this oath, and you read it the other day. But it doesn't say he has to stand out in public. He can do it while he's taking a shower. And it doesn't say where, but he's got to do it. In Roberts, once you're elected and the result is announced, you won the election, you're in. So these things are simply 26 myths that people pass along. What is it? Mark Twain said, a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth gets its trousers on. Well, page 8 is the thing I mentioned earlier, documents. There's a hierarchy of documents. If you have a question, you go all the way up to the charter. Theoretically, you go to the Maryland Constitution. You come down through your county charter, and then through your rules and procedures, and you would then come down to Roberts, and you would answer that question. The next several pages are the documents of the organization, the local benevolent association, order of business. There's a script for a meeting. I want to ask you a question. How much time I got? Or did I run out?
2 days.
2 days?
What is the,
It might be done by 3.
Oh, okay. I can make that.
what is, 18, you can dispense with the reading of the minutes?
Oh.
Motion to-
And I think that's covered in your charter too, it's okay. Some people, you look in Roberts, and this is what, you must read from the top down, and you must read the whole thing. They look in Roberts and they go, oh, there's a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes. I move we dispense with the reading of the minutes, and they're happy. Motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes, comma, at this time. And they can be read at any future time, yada, yada, yada. You must approve your minutes. In this case, it's a public organization. And the other one, it's a corporate record. And until this group says, we approve the minutes, they are not the minutes. They're the secretary's minutes. Okay, so you must approve them. What the rule is in Roberts is if you're busy and you're trying to catch up, you say, I move we dispense with the reading of the minutes at this time. And the chair says, no objection, we'll do that, and move to item number 4 because we're in a hurry. And if you don't get to them today, you get to them at the next meeting. But you can't just not do them. And you can adopt them as distributed, which today everybody gets an email and you read them, and when you come in, you see them already. So they don't literally stand up and read them. Do I see that? Can you try something with me? Page 24, please. Page 24. You the president. I'm going to make you the president. You remember Reed. You remember Bedford. And you remember Madison. I had to pencil that in. Remember Madison? Well, turn them this way. So turn that around, please. So you know who you are. You know you're the president. When we do this is just one of the scripts. I want you to check it out. When we do these scripts, we start out with a perfect meeting, and each one gets a little more involved. This one has a main motion is brought on the floor. It is, of course, seconded, debated. Amendments are done, and it goes through the whole procedure. Kind of like what you did with your minutes this morning. Remember? And you got the job done. It was fine. But this would be the official way of doing it. And obviously you don't have to rise to stay in your seat. But what you do is the gray are your instructions. The gray are your instructions, and the bold black is your script. And you're in the middle of the meeting under unfinished business and general orders. So this thing was postponed. What page are we on?
24.
I don't think that's right.
The names don't correspond with the script.
I'm sorry, 26. I have my 26. Now they'll match. Sorry about that. So you all know who you are. You're all going to read your script, and I'm going to be the members. Okay? Mr. President, if you'll start.
Is there any new business?
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman recognizes the member Reed.
I move that we serve donuts and coffee at the meetings.
Second.
It is moved in second that we serve donuts and coffee at the meetings. Are you ready for the question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Don't stand up.
Chair recognizes member Bedford.
I move to amend the motion by inserting the words with cream and sugar after the word coffee.
Second.
It is moved in second to amend the motion by inserting the words with cream and sugar after the word coffee. If adopted, the motion will be, we serve donuts and coffee with cream and sugar at the meetings.
Mr. Chairman?
No.
Oh, sorry.
The question is on the adoption of the motion to insert the words cream and sugar. Are you ready for the question?
Mr. Chairman,
The chair recognizes member Madison.
this is a good idea because not every member drinks their coffee black.
Is there any further discussion? There being none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it, the amendment is adopted. The question is on the adoption of the main motion as amended, that we serve donuts and coffee with cream and sugar at the meetings. Are you ready for the question? Those
Never mind again.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The ayes have it, the motion is adopted. We will serve donuts and coffee with sugar and cream at the meetings. The chair directs the Sergeant at Arms to carry out the order. Is there any other new business?
Any questions on how that went?
The chair directs the sergeant at arms to carry.
Assuming you have a sergeant at arms and pages to take care of all this business.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, put it in your chart, and it's.
I don't think so.
The last point is that the chair directs somebody to go do it. Directs a member of the staff, the sergeant at arms, the pages, to take care of this business. And you see how the chair kept repeating everything. Every time you said, I move this, the chair repeats it. And then when you put the amendment in, the chair said, he says, if adopted, it'll read this. And then you adopt it. He says, now, as amended, it reads this. How do you vote? He kept telling you what it was, perfectly clear.
So, you said there was a direction at the end.
Mhm.
Is there any direction that we've been missing that we should be putting in our dialogue? No.
No. So this shows how, for example, how officially you would have handled that amendment to the minutes. You say,
Yes.
you said you did a fine job, and I'm saying the formalities of all, and what does, are you ready for the question? What does that mean?
You want to take a vote?
Or,
End of debate.
do you want to debate, or do you want to make another motion? It's a three-pronged question. You have to watch out if you say, is there any discussion, because if you look on the back of the book, some of the motions aren't debatable. So you can't say, is there any discussion, because it's not debatable. So in this business, we say, are you ready for the question? Which means, if it's debatable, do you want to debate? If not, do you possibly want to make another motion, or do you want to vote on it? Now, if the group is a small group, if I say, are you ready for the question, and the other four members are like this, I think they're ready to vote, right? Because otherwise, they raise their hand to debate, or I raise my hand as the chair recognizes member Mike. Mr. President, I move we postpone this to the next meeting. Second. You see, I made another motion. I'm trying to push it, kick the king down there, right? So they might debate, they might want to vote. Silence says I want to vote. Just raise your hand, get recognized and debate, you debate. Raise your hand and make a motion. You want to refer it to committee, you want to postpone to next week. Any questions on that?
If you make the second motion,
The one
you've
to
got
add
a
the
motion
cream,
on the floor. Okay.
right, motion.
Cream and sugar in my coffee.
That's the amendment.
No. Okay. We're gonna have coffee, yes, coffee and donuts. Now, and then I say, somebody says, is there any debate? And talk about it, we say, well, maybe cream, I make a motion that we add cream and sugar to that, that's an amendment.
Yes. I move,
Okay, so then you vote on the whole thing with amendment, or you vote on?
you vote on the amendment, remember you voted on the amendment,
And then-
and then the next thing he said was, the question is on the motion as amended, and he read the whole thing with the
Whole thing.
amendment stuck in.
Okay, got it now,
So the motion with the amendment now becomes the entire motion.
right.
Yes, the motion as amended, which is with the amendment. And the chair made that perfectly clear, because if the amendment lost, for example,
Right.
he would go back and say, the question is, and he'd repeat the original motion without saying, and cream and sugar.
Okay, got it.
And there's a rule in any assembly, it's like there's 30, 40 people in the assembly, the rule is 5% of them are lost. 5% of the crowd is lost. They don't know where you're at or what you're doing.
That's right.
And it's the chair's job to see that that number doesn't rise. Right? Because if he just says, okay, the motion of cream and sugar, what do you think about that? Want to vote? And they go, huh? Now you got about 80 of them, 80% of them going, what? What did you vote on? Was it coffee or the cream and sugar? Did that amendment get in there? So he keeps repeating. Sounds like he's repeating himself. It's better to do that than to cause the confusion and then all you know what breaks loose. One other thing. On the back of the book, you see the point of order? And we talked about that. It's the first zero. If in a group, in a small group, it shouldn't be any problem. If in a group, someone says, point of order, Mr. President. As soon as someone says that, the chair must immediately recognize that member and make sure all other members are silent. In a small group, it shouldn't be a big problem. It's just a warning. If you get a large assembly out here and something goes wrong, someone will holler, point of order, and I'll guarantee you it'll be like a popcorn machine. Point of order, point of order, point of order. Whoa, what happened? I got 3 of them dangling. You gotta catch the first one and shut everybody else up. Because there's only going to be one question, one ruling, and if you think so, one appeal.
Could we expand on that a little bit? So a member says point of order.
Point of order, Mr. President.
The chairman would recognize that member.
Chair recognizes the member, Mike.
And say, state your point.
Chair says the member will state his point.
And the member would
Uh,
explain why.
Member Madison is speaking for a 3rd time on this motion, and Member Madison is not allowed to speak 3 times without the permission of the assembly.
And the chairman can
The
say.
member's point is well taken. In
Or-
this case, it is, because it's in the book. But if you disagree, you say the member's point is not well taken, he will be seated.
And that can be overruled by,
And I have the option of appealing, or anyone else can appeal.
by motion.
Mr. President, I appeal from the decision of the chair. Now, if I do it, I need a second. If she does it, we don't need a second, because I'm the one who's disagreeing with you. Then everybody explains their case. The chair debates initially. Everybody debates once, and then the chair closes in rebuttal, and then you vote. And it takes a majority in the negative to flip the decision. So he wins on a tie. Mr. President wins on a tie, even if he has to create the tie. You see how that works?
Interesting.
It's not a good page. Page 19. So we won't do this, we'll just look at it. Oh, no, just so you can see, these scripts start out on page 19. And if you look through page 19, the chair calls the meeting to order. It says that there being no objection, the agenda is adopted. They adopt the agenda. Secretary will read the minutes of the previous meeting. And I play the parts. I get up and read the minutes. They're on page 12. The chair says, are there any corrections to the minutes? Notice there's pause for response all the time. Pause for response. The chair then says, there being no correction, the minutes are approved as read. The treasurer will give the financial report. He stands up and reads it. He says, I submitted this detailed report. He sits down. That's the end of that. Are there any questions? The chair recognizes Member Johnson, chair of the committee, to report, and they do so, and they do so. You see that? The chair calls on those committee members, they give their report, and thank you very much, they sit down. The whole meeting goes through there, and there's no debate, nobody has any questions, everybody understands perfectly. And he gets to the end, he says, under new business, does anyone have a motion? It's on the bottom, motion to offer, at the bottom of page 20. He pauses, there's silence throughout the land. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. That's the perfect meeting. Yes, ma'am.
They read the minutes in
Mhm.
this scenario. We don't read our minutes.
That's right. Then the minutes are approved as distributed, and I think that was the word you used this morning. Nowadays, in the old days, remember, they had to be typed up and then you graphed. I remember all that stuff. So the secretary would get up and read it. If you start from that script and go through here, you can play these parts and work your way through each one and introduces another glitch. Yes, sir. You have, if an organization has an agenda, then you should put it in your rules and procedures. It's similar to the one that I made up in the book. Then it's understood, these are the major hunks, and the whole county sending stuff in and you fit it in the slots. So you don't adopt one.
And there's no need to vote to adopt.
To adopt the agenda, it's understood. Your agenda is the major headings under which all the business that comes in will be handled. It's not like you can sit up there and they send you a bill and you go, I don't want that, right?
Well, no, there are new bills,
New bills and old
I'm not
bills.
even talking about the bills, because there is a process for that. Although, there is an option from the president to withhold bills.
Postpone them?
No, just to hold it back, if he doesn't wanna introduce them, he can
Hold them back for what?
That's for the county.
The question is, you mean just period, nobody gets to see them forever and a day?
Yeah, not introduce them.
Okay, and who has that authority?
The president submits legislation on behalf of the county executive.
And the council,
member can
it's not just the county executive, it's the county council.
However your business gets there, certainly comes down through your charter, who does what to whom.
I don't think that there's any authority granted in the charter with rules that allow the president to withhold that permission,
What's the permission says?
to not introduce.
And the council members.
Any council members can introduce legislation.
That's true, city council members can do it, so theoretically, if he's given the authority to hold it, I don't think he has one.
I don't.
Then you could introduce it, sure, that's it.
I think you have to vote,
Yeah.
to,
You
that's
just voted
definitely
on
in
it.
there, but I'm like, okay.
But that's generally just business that comes in from this department and that department, they wanna do lawnmower for maintenance, they wanna do whatever, for whatever.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
When there's work sessions, when you do the work session meetings like this, what's your thoughts on what kind of business they should conduct in work sessions versus?
It's entirely up to them.
legislative?
It seems like, I know you call it a work session, it seems like a meeting to me, it's a meeting. Some people call committees task groups. I say, yeah, you can call it whatever you will, it's task groups when you go paint the office, all of the committees. So your work session was a meeting, but you don't call that a legislative day?
No.
That's a legislative.
By charter, the council may only meet in legislative session on the second and
First
First and third.
Tuesdays of the month.
So therefore you have legislative days.
Yes, we do.
I have
You can't
standing
have
arguments with
45
the lawyers
years.
in Baltimore City. They try to play this legislative day versus the real day. And I know it exists in legislators in Annapolis. There are certain things that you cannot do on the same day and certain things that you can't do on the next day. So what they said is, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they can rush through and say, that's the end of the legislative day, and then they call another meeting there. It's a new legislative day, so now we can do that. It's a ruse. If they want to do it, that's fine. That's your legislative day.
That's what I was concerned about.
That's Philadelphia lawyer stuff.
So the agenda for now legislative day is the evening meeting.
That's up to you guys.
Oh,
whatever
well,
your choice.
that's
Yes,
a
it
lot
is.
more stricter
It's your
in
7
our
o'clock
agenda.
meeting.
much
Mr.
more.
Mr. Swift, I'd like to allow a little bit of time for the citizens and others
To
to
ask
ask
questions?
quick questions.
It's food for thought. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir. Guy with the camera. We're still
Yes,
having a
and
couple
and it's about the camera.
Oh.
As to the meeting minutes, council may decide that they're not going to have audio. They're not going to record, as Commissioner Bromell indicated. But under the Maryland open meeting requirements, I can record. So my question is then, what is the, okay,
You're asking a legal question, don't ask me.
okay, I'm just,
If Maryland law says you can, you can. I mean, talk
right.
to your lawyer.
But all I'm saying is from an advisory point, why wouldn't they then want to go ahead and do it?
No idea. Yes, sir.
Okay.
2 questions. Because the minutes are the minutes.
I'm not a lawyer and I don't do law.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
You know
Two
I
questions.
support
Number one-
having the audio recording.
Yes.
Televising
Okay.
it.
The audio.
It's
I don't wanna
a
spend-
situation where you have
Wait
four,
a minute, wait a minute.
you
Yes,
have 4 of 5 members of the council in a meeting. There's a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
That can't, it's not unresolved. 2 people,
well, stop for 1 minute.
okay,
Someone made a motion to adjourn.
yes.
Someone seconded the motion to adjourn. The motion to adjourn is not debatable. Everyone in favor of adjourning, raise your hands. How many hands went up?
2 for and 2 against.
Whoa,
2
whoa,
for, I'm sorry.
Whoa, stop. You see,
I'm
No
sorry,
hands.
2 for.
we do one thing at a
I'm
time
sorry.
in my business.
Two
The
for.
guy said I was in the Marine Corps. You do
2
two
for.
things at once, I get
2 for.
confused.
2 for.
How many hands went, all in favor say yes. How many?
2.
2. Hands down. All opposed, raise your hands. How many hands went up?
2.
2. Hands down. Thank you very much. Was there a majority in favor?
No.
The motion to adjourn is lost. The next business in the order of business is to buy the lawnmower that I've been talking about all day.
Well, go ahead.
Alright, so we didn't
There's no
adjourn.
more, there's no more business. So then 2 people get up and
Stop,
leave. Wait a
stop,
minute.
one more time, stop. He said, and there's no more business. Will you listen to yourself?
Yes.
It's important. All of
Yes.
you, listen to
Yes.
this. If you don't have any business left to do,
Go home.
close shop and go home.
Thank you.
That's not rocket science.
Thank you.
We have,
Thank
it's
you.
debatable.
There's a,
It was debatable.
the motion to debate. The motion to
No, I
amend is
think
not
this-
debatable.
Don't argue with the man, I have
No,
one
no,
more
no,
question.
no,
I have one
no,
more question.
What's the
Question number
alternative? Y'all
2.
gonna sit here for the
Question,
till next
question number
Tuesday?
2.
Yes, sir. Second
Question,
question.
I'm in the hot seat, I'm in the hot seat. There's
I
an
get overtime for
organization,
2
there's an
questions.
organization,
Okay.
meets twice a year. There's a meeting, there's an organization. And during the course of that, there's a motion to table a resolution.
No, it's improper. Next question.
So what would it be called?
Yeah, what are you gonna do about it?
I tell them it's out of order, sit down, shut up.
Yeah.
But then, I'm a charming presiding officer.
Well, you,
Yeah, I could tell.
I'll take your word. I'll move on to the next
No,
one.
no, I think the motion you want is postponed.
Okay, motion to postpone.
211.
Now we're getting in the weeds with terminology.
Yeah, that's okay, 209, I got it.
Okay.
When something else is immediately urgent has risen, that's when you table a motion. Such action, if you table a motion just because you want to, violates the rights of the minority and individual members. The motion to lay on the table is out of order if the evident intent is to kill or avoid dealing with the measure. So here's my question. Do you want to kill it or do you want to postpone it to the next meeting?
Postpone it to the next meeting.
Okay.
No, I want to kill it.
He
Well,
wants to.
Either one. If you want to kill it, you move to postpone indefinitely.
Thank you.
That's the polite term for I want to kill that sucker.
Thank you.
Okay.
I move to postpone it to the next meeting. Now, the trick is that motion is debatable. The motion to table is not.
Okay.
So you can't use the motion to table to cut off my right to debate just because you want to.
And at the next scheduled meeting, can you reopen that?
Yes, you can.
Yep.
I can keep bringing that lawnmower up at every meeting and I can lose every time. It's democracy. As long as I keep count in my head, we'll do it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Minutes, once they've been approved,
Yes.
a week, 2 weeks, a month later,
Year.
someone decides
Generations.
that history wasn't correct.
Then they correct it.
Can you go
Yes.
back and correct?
Yes.
And what,
Yes.
what kind of motion is?
It's a motion to amend the minutes.
Minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
And there's no time on it.
At any time, if you go back to the Continental Congress minutes, right, and you go, oh, that's not correct.
I was there.
You have to go down and you can correct the minutes. At any time you find a mistake, an oops, you can go back and correct it. And the assembly decides. It's kind of interesting.
Fascinating, yeah.
If you vote that that was a mistake and this fixes it, then it's fixed. If you vote no, then it's not a mistake and there's nothing to fix.
So there is a vote.
Oh, yes, yes. It's not one member saying, oh, that's not right, do it. Like this morning, you moved to amend it. You didn't say, that's not right, put this in. You moved to amend it, and he says it's debate, yada, yada, you went through the procedure.
But knowing that, the audio holds some weight that you can, someone's listening to it and say, oh, this doesn't jive, I think
you
someone
have
needs to
another
correct
question?
it.
No, I got another.
Yes, ma'am.
I was curious about the decorum among the people on the council, like specifically if certain council members begin to just make all kinds of claims that another person on the council is a crook, or they never should have done this, or former members were crooks.
What was the second thing on that sheet about debate? You can attack the motion, but you never attack the person.
Yeah, so but this happens on a regular
You have to
basis.
slow down. When it happens, it is not in order. I didn't say not in order at this time. It's not in order, period. And the presiding officer should call them to order. The member is out of order and will refrain from impugning the motives of another member. That's polite
And
parliamentary
what
talk.
about with the audience, when someone who's on the council looks out at the audience and tells them where to position their camera, or that they don't agree with what they're doing?
Slow down.
There should be a
You're
wall,
in for
right?
lessons.
Slow down. Who's the bus driver?
President.
And there's only one bus driver. Sorry about that.
Uh-huh.
He, the president, I shouldn't say he, the president should call them to order. Okay, now here you gotta slow down, don't go off on me yet. They should remind that citizen that that is not proper.
No, I'm talking about the council person yelling at people in the audience, which
Who's the
happens.
bus driver?
He is.
Okay, I'll keep asking you that question. Who's gonna say somebody's out of order?
I am.
The president.
Works both ways.
Now, I wanted to go further because I thought you were gonna say, now what if this person won't listen, blah, blah, blah. In Baltimore City, and this is in other public organizations, this is not a corporation, they'll have an officer standing quietly in the back of the room. Because if you let the people in, I believe in democracy, but if you let the people in, we the people, you better be ready. You might have a Thomas Paine in the crowd,
Yeah.
right? And if he or she, Jane Paine, right, his sister, if they sort of get out of control,
Yeah.
you have to tell the officer, you tell the person to please be cool. Don't try to argue with them. Say the member will please, stop doing that and be seated. And then, rah, 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 rah. Officer, remove that person, please. Okay? And they're within their right to do so. You have the right to attend, you have the right to observe, you have the right to address them. You do not have the right.
And do you have the right to remove
Get out of
someone
step.
from the board if they're repeatedly slandering or engaging the crowd?
They have to do it by following the procedure to remove someone from the council, which means you gotta go back to charter and figure that one out.
You
No,
can't.
no, she's talking about a
Meeting.
particular meeting, that,
Well,
not
not to
removed from
remove
the council.
forever, but if someone on the council is out of order, can they be
If
removed?
they're throwing chairs, I guess you could call the police. But
Why
if
are you
they're.
pointing at me?
If they're throwing chairs, but if they get out of hand, I think they have to, the chair should call them to order, and I think they listen, but if they don't, first thing, I've seen this done, the presiding officer will wait till they blow off steam, and the air comes out, and then simply says, is there any other business? I've seen that, I thought it was cool. Or you might have to remind the member after the meeting, or remind the other members, maybe we gotta do something, okay? If you follow the procedure, namely being recognized, and always addressing the motion, that is so important, always address the motion. That's why the seating is difficult. The seating is difficult. When you go to a meeting, the presiding officer should be up there, and the council members should be down here. And they shouldn't be facing the audience, because they should talk to him, and everyone there that speaks after being recognized should talk to him, and that's it. They never talk to a member, and a member never talks to them.
Okay.
I'm just telling you,
There's
the
a
proper
point.
procedure makes him the bus driver, and if I am pissed off at somebody, I have to look at him and talk about it. I can't look that person in the eye, Jane, Bill, Sam, or otherwise. And they can't look me in the eye, they gotta look at him.
There has to be some buy-in in that we are trusting that our president, our chairman, is running.
I'm not sure about buying it.
Ah, that's right. Well, that he is following the process. What if he's following part of the rules, but not all of the rules? And we're feeling.
Then he's not doing the job. If he's not
That's
following
what I'm
the rules,
saying,
he's not doing the
because
job.
you're saying you're very specific, and it is pretty, there's a lot of rules in here. And there's a lot of room to where we feel possibly that he's being biased in how he, hold on,
He
in
went
how.
to the 2010 session. He's going to the 2013 session.
In how he's enforcing it, so that hence I say.
I'm using he. He's a whiz at this.
All right.
How about-
Are we done?
How about the council person, who's constantly disruptive and
They should be called to order. If anyone's
by the bus driver?
If anyone is disruptive, council person, the Pope, I don't
Okay.
care who, they should be called to order.
What about the people out in the audience who are constantly out of order and disruptive, I'll say, and the chair is ignoring this despite a member saying,
I
please
think-
call Hogan.
I think, it's my opinion, I think you should get one of, I don't, you have a sheriff or whatever, I don't know what
We
it
have
is.
Sergeant Arms.
Be careful, is the sergeant at arms a duly authorized legal enforcement? I recommend that you get either the sheriff or
No,
the
we don't have a
police.
sergeant, we don't have a
Then
sergeant.
the police department, call the police chief and
We
say,
have the security
say,
guard.
Mr. Police Chief, or Madam, would you please station a police person at the door during the meetings? Now, if things really get out of hand, you can direct that police officer to remove that person who's interrupting, disturbing the public meeting, not just listening to opinion yesterday.
Who is the police officer gonna take direction from?
From whoever's in here, or take it from the presiding officer.
What happens if the presiding officer is not recognized?
Listen, if the presiding officer is unsaintly, then he's unsaintly. If the presiding officer is a Republican, he's a Republican. The man is what he is.
They're all
It is.
Republicans, they can't work together.
Yeah.
You must look at it
Mr. Calls himself
objectively.
a journalist.
Yeah.
Try doing away with all the I's.
Yeah.
Try addressing them by their title, and try sticking to the motion. Whatever the motion is, stick to it. Don't ever impugn the motives of another person. Here's a secret, I'll tell you. If you and I are debating something and you start saying, well, the problem is Mike Swift is an asshole, then you just lost the argument. Because if you had a sound opposing debate, you would have thrown it out and whooped me. But you didn't have it. You called me a name. I win the debate. Remember Churchill said that a long time ago when they tried to shout him down. He says, the louder you try to shout me down, the more you're proving my point that I'm right. Hitler's an SOB, and we got to get him out of there.
In fact, we had a motion from the public, they wanted us to respond on the council, so I made the motion that we would be able to respond if each member wanted to, individually. And we're having, a open meeting, and, the public was saying things, and I wanted to exercise my right to respond, I was being addressed personally. They didn't like that, and then,
You just answered my question.
what?
Why were they addressing you personally? They should be addressing him.
He brings them in.
Ah.
Oh, that's,
Oh, that is.
Point of order.
Now you
Point
point
of
of
order.
order.
My
Point
point,
of order.
exactly, and I'm sorry.
Did you
Are we
bring
out of
them,
time?
Robert, did you bring those people on your bus?
I love you smiling.
Read some of those
No,
scripts.
I agree, that
I agree.
they public
long enough.
needs to
I
address the
brought Mr. Swift here
president.
to
The
give me
public
cover.
needs to
Yes,
address the
I
president.
agree.
Yes.
If you read the scripts, about 2 scripts in, someone asked a question about the financial report.
We were denied
And
having,
the chair directs the treasurer to answer it. The point is, the treasurer doesn't jump up and go, well, the problem with that is this. If the president had the information, he would have answered the question, period. If he's not sure, then he directs the treasurer. The treasurer didn't just jump up, and it goes for everybody. It's not a personal thing, no one just jumps up. No one should address you, the pronoun, you. They should not address council member Brummel. They should say, Mr. President, I have a question, yada, yada, yada. And he can say, oh, if you're on the committee to whatever, the maintenance committee, then you can say, oh, that's a maintenance question, council member Brummel can answer it.
Mr. Swift, I agree that I'd like to have well-run meetings, but it has to work both ways. If the rules are being used against us and it's being.
That's why you learn the
Yeah.
rules.
That's right, that's why I'm here.
And you can use them
Yes.
against those other people, we know how they
No,
are.
I mean, the goal is to get the
Oh, yeah,
people's
I'm-
business done,
I'm here to help.
and that there's accountability.
Any question that you have, you can email or ask, Your Honor.
Last question.
And you control the content of the citizens' input. I mean, are there certain?
Oh, no, not in that sense, you can,
So
if
they can
wanna
say anything they damn please.
well, they can say what they feel about the motion to close the firehouse, it's terrible, but they can't stand up and call people
How about if
names.
you want to preach a sermon?
Call me.
He's got a good point, he's saying, what if they filibuster?
You have time.
We have a
No,
timer.
there's a time.
You have a time, okay, so, and they know that.
Yes, it's announced in advance.
There's one other thing you can do when and I've seen, public organizations do this, if they want to speak, they sign a sheet.
We do.
And you call them in and do that, okay, so they know it's not just random, they're gonna be called and you're gonna, okay.
Well, it's about the content.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
I'll still be here in a few minutes if you have questions, especially on the way out.
Is your contact information in here, because I will be contacting.
It's on the bottom of all the pages.
Okay.
Commercial.
Oh, no, he says anytime.
No, you have a question, you can email me.
Thank you.
Do you have a limited number of questions you can ask?
The vast majority of questions will be relatively straightforward. Oh, thank you. Relatively straightforward and easily answered. No, keep these. Whenever you have a meeting down here. Would you turn it down?
so Robert should sit up here by himself, but I know she wasn't here.
Actually, they should face him.
Well, if that's the case, then we wouldn't have to make it a law.
Yeah, but I don't want the council people's backs.
So then the next option is simple, take, the reason that they're back